everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Danae Kokailis. I am a Senior Communications Officer at EHPA, and today I have the pleasure to also be with Tariq, who I'll introduce in a second. But before we start, I would like us to look at today's agenda. We will have a welcome and introduction to EHPA first, then Tariq will present the Heat Pump KEYMARK and the certification process. This will be followed by a presentation from André Jacob from BWP on the database, which is today's topic. We will then have a short break to catch our breath, because what follows after is a very interesting demo, again by André. And at the end, we have foreseen enough time to answer any questions you may have. Also, a few housekeeping rules. If this is the first time you join a Teams webinar, your camera and mic are off. This is normal because you're an attendee. We have started a recording, which we will share together with a presentation after the webinar. So your camera and mic are off, as I said, but you can still interact by asking your questions in the chat. Just don't forget to mention the name of the person you would like to address your question to. Okay, before we start, I would like to hear from you. So we have a poll that should appear on your screen right now. And we would like to know where you're connecting from. Where are you currently located while attending this webinar? So I'll wait for a couple of seconds so that you can all add your locations. I will also add mine. Okay, I see we have some responses already, so we can close the poll. And I see we have people from Sweden, Switzerland, Germany, France, and Brussels, of course. So this is very nice to see that you're all connecting from different places. Okay, so moving on. I mentioned that this webinar is also organized by EHPA. So what is EHPA? We are the European Heat Pump Association. We were founded in the year 2000, which makes the association 24 years old today. We have now over 220 members, which represent the entire value chain. So we have manufacturers for heat pumps, but also components, national associations, testing laboratories, utilities consultancies, research institutes and universities, and heat pump-based services and startups. So all of these together are spread across 30 countries in Europe. So we have a very diverse association, and we also have a few departments. So as an association, our mission is to help the heat pump sector develop to its full potential and make heat pump technology the #1 heating and cooling technology in Europe. The policy department is helping a lot with that because they are the intermediate between the people in the sector who express their needs, and then the policy department pushes that and communicates that to the institutions. Here is the Heat Pump KEYMARK. So this is where we stand. We are managing the Secretariat as EHPA, but the scheme itself is owned by CEN and CENELEC, which is the committee, the European Committee for Standardization. And as a Secretariat, we manage meetings. We participate in a lot of trade shows, in-person events, and also webinars like the one you are attending right now. And we also do some promotion both online and in real life. We also have some European funded projects that we're managing. These are only some of them. We have a lot more. And we also have other departments that are not depicted here, but are still important, like the communications department and the events and membership one. So if you would like to know more about what EHPA does, you can go to our website, ehpa.org, to learn more. Now, it's time to introduce you to Tariq Belhassen. He's the head of the Heat Pump KEYMARK Secretariat at EHPA. and he will be introducing the Heat Pump KEYMARK and the certification process. Tariq, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I think I was on mute. So good morning again, everyone. My name is Tariq Belhassen. I'm in charge of the coordination of the Heat Pump KEYMARK scheme, and I'm also in charge of the coordination of the EHPA quality label scheme. I'm based in Brussels, and I will today show you the main structure of the certification scheme. Next slide. And I will go through the certification process, and I will cover the recognition aspect of the scheme, and I will briefly talk about the database and communication briefly, because today we have a database specialist who is going to cover this topic. And I will finish my slide, always my presentation, with the benefits of a third-party certification. I think it's important to keep on reminding what is a third party and what's its benefits. I apologize for those who already saw these slides, but I think some are new to the scheme, so it's important to reintroduce and to re-explain what is KEYMARK and what is the certification process. Next slide, please. So what is important to know, next slide, about the KEYMARK, as Danae mentioned briefly in her introduction, the certification scheme is a voluntary one, and it was the initiative of SEN to put together a harmonized European certification scheme. So today we can say that the KEYMARK represents the European harmonized certification path that you can take to certify your product. Heat pumps, in this case, the certification was thought to make the link between the existing or the in development European regulation, like eco design. So the base of the thinking of when the scheme was developed in terms of requirements, it was of course eco design. But one of the conditions of SEN to those who are developing a KEYMARK scheme is to refer to European standard, an existing one or one that is almost ready to be used in the European market to back a certification scheme. So the base of the certification, again, in terms of requirements, is the eco design and the reference to European standards. The idea was, of course, to have a certification scheme that is a third party. So it means that we will have involved certification bodies that will support the scheme. So the SEN is empowering certification bodies to deliver the certification. So this is also an important point. It's a third party, it's not a second or self-declaration. Next slide, please. So as I said, the idea of SEN was to develop a certification scheme, but not necessarily only to heat pumps. So the concept was to have harmonized schemes, certification schemes that are third party, as I said, but this is applicable to any product. The only condition is that we have European standards that can back this scheme. So that's why, as a result, we have KEYMARK certification schemes covering not only heat pumps, but you have KEYMARK for the solar, for thermostatic radiators, for ceramics, and as I said, yeah, insulation also is an important one, but you will see how important are these products and schemes in the market. You can see here that these are the main, let's say, alive KEYMARK certifications. So you see the thermal insulation is one of the most advanced and most mature as well, with almost 2,500 certificates, followed now closer and closer by the Heat Pump KEYMARK. Today, Heat Pump KEYMARK certificates represent 37% of the total KEYMARK certificates issued in total. Then you have the solar thermal, and then you have the thermostatic radiator and the thermal insulation. So we see that KEYMARK heat pump is quite solid and still growing, and one of the most respected certification, KEYMARK certification. So it's a good sign. It's positive. Now, if we focus, we saw that there are different KEYMARK schemes, but of course, we are going to focus on, as European Heat Pump Association, our focus is on heat pumps, obviously, and the scope covers different type of electrical driven heat pumps. This is really a short summary of the scope. So you have the space heating and cooling heat pumps, you have the domestic hot water, and the combination heater heat pumps. And the technologies that we cover in the KEYMARK certification is air to water, brine to water, and air to air. But you have more details in the rules, the Heat Pump KEYMARK rules version 14 that is publicly available and is online. Now, again, very, very briefly to give at least an idea of what we cover in terms of testing, because it's important to understand that the Heat Pump KEYMARK is a certification to challenge a device from the performance point of view and not a safety point of view. So what I mean by that is that we look at we challenge the product in different conditions. So we do the space heating or space cooling test, the hot water when there is a hot water option, and we look at the sound power and some operating tests. So you see here, it's really the performance, the functioning of the heat pump, and not necessarily looking at the safety, electrical, or any other related points that are safety checks. This is not KEYMARK. This is something else. It can be in a CE context or any other certification schemes. But here, KEYMARK is about performance of the equipment. So to do this test that I mentioned, but that I really summarized as much as I can, we need to refer, as I said earlier, to European standards, and these are the main European standards. I'm sure you recognize them, and probably you know them better than me, that we refer to in the scheme to do the testing. So these are all the standards describing the tests setup, the test requirements, and all the details related to the testing. And you can see they are all European tests and standards. Next slide. Now we looked at the standards, we looked what we test. We know that there's a third-party certification body, but then who is managing, who is making this scheme working and alive? So we have a clear and open structure where you have the heat pump scheme group. The scheme group mainly are the certificate holders, the laboratories and the certification body, the inspectors, and the EHPA. You have a steering committee who is really developing the rules, looking at maintaining quality documents to make the KEYMARK scheme robust and to sustain the quality of the scheme. So the steering committee has a lot of work in terms of technical aspect, but also the quality aspect of the scheme. And the steering committee is presenting to the scheme group all the modifications, the rules, all the modifications or the development of the scheme to the scheme group. So any development made by the steering committee needs still the approval of the scheme group to be adopted as a rule, or any modification or development. So to say, what I'm trying to say here is that there is no group in isolation in a room inventing rules and developing on their own scheme or requirements without consulting all the stakeholders. So this is very important to understand that. So when there is any work done by the steering committee, it has to be adopted by voting by the scheme group. That's how it works. And to have these scheme groups and steering committee working correctly, that's where we as a secretariat, we are coordinating these efforts to make sure that all the stakeholders are kept informed and that the information is circulated and that we are bringing all the information needed to these groups to make the KEYMARK scheme working, solid, robust, and again, through the time, maintain the quality. So as I said, for the scheme group, the steering committee and the secretariat, we have all the stakeholders represented. So the manufacturers, the testing laboratories, certification bodies, and you have the EHPA as the secretariat. Without forgetting that we have this layer of voting on any initiative, on any point. We have then another layer of supervision, let's say, to make sure that we are still working in a specific frame as thought and decided by SEN. We have what we call the KEYMARK Management Organization, who is approving all the developments related to the rules. This needs also the approval of the KEYMARK, that is the KEYMARK Management Organization, who is acting on behalf of SEN to make sure that all the regulation, all the rules that we are implementing are in line with the SEN and the European regulation rules, or even SEN own standards and rules. So this is also another extra layer to make sure that we are really putting on the market a real third-party certification scheme. Now again, a little summary of the KEYMARK Secretariat. So we as EHPA, we are in charge of the KEYMARK Secretariat, and these are our three main missions, let's say, and objectives is to continue to, as Danae mentioned, to promote, to expose, to communicate about KEYMARK, to make people to inform about the KEYMARK, and to have all the states recognizing the KEYMARK as a European scheme. It's not our scheme, it's a European scheme. And the second part is also more and more trying to also explain and inform the end user, to explain what is a certification, or what represents the KEYMARK, what does it mean to buy heat pumps that is KEYMARK certified. That's why we are present in trade shows. And the third part is is really linked to the two first ones, is the information. So we try to give, as I said, we inform the end users, we inform the regulators, the member states about the scheme, but to do this, we need to have a clear access, transparent access to the data, to the database, to understand what does it mean again, to understand, to read the certificate, to understand what does it mean to have a certified product. So the access to the information is also very, very important for us. Next slide. So as I said earlier, the certification, the KEYMARK is a third-party certification scheme. So the certification bodies are empowered by the SEN KMO in this case, and the certification body needs to be ISO 17065. The same, then the certification body will select and recognize laboratories, and one of the first requirements is that the laboratory is ISO 17025, and obviously in the ISO 17025 they need to have in their scope of accreditation, they need to have all the standards that I showed in the standards slides. This is obvious. So today I said that we have that KMO is empowering certification bodies. So today we have 11 of them that are delivering the certification, and they take what we call the final certification decision. And this 11 certification body recognized 29 laboratories across the globe. And you can see them in I think I have a slide showing the certification bodies, and the next one is about the laboratories. You will receive this slide, so if you want to look in details who is who, you can have a look at these slides. Next slide, please. So as a result of this setup, of this organization, of this scheme, all these efforts from the CBs, certification bodies, and the laboratories, we have as a result clearly a fast growth in terms of development of the scheme, and we have today 140 certificate holders holding 2,122 certificates, and this 2,000 plus certificates covers more than 8,000 certified model, which is huge, which is very big. And you will see now, I think it's in my next slide, you will see how this is evolving year after year. Just comparing 2022 and 2023, you see that the number of certified models or the certificate is from a year to another one increasing very fast. And just to give you a number, just the past 2023, we had 645 new certificates, which is extremely high number. Usually the average annual is between 150 and 200, and here you can see that we're talking about more than 600. So the interest of the Heat Pump KEYMARK is not to demonstrate, or it is obvious looking at these numbers. And the main reason is, again, because of the third-party certification, that is European certification, is the main reason to that. Now we can talk about the certification process. I can say that the certification process is a classical one, where we have an application step. Manufacturer or the distributor will contact one of the certification body of their choice that is close to their country, or they used to work with them, or is implemented within their country of activities. From there, we will have a clear review of the certification body with the manufacturer. Together, they will work on the family of products to be certified, to understand what is the need of the manufacturer, and to come with a family of products and a testing planning. And then from there, the manufacturer can look at a laboratory again that is designated, that is empowered by, that is recognized by the certification body. Sorry, and then we can start to look at the auditing, the inspection part, and the sample collections, and to start the testing as well. So we have all this that can start at the same time, and the certification body will appear again, collecting the inspection report, the test reports, and the certification body will do a review of these two reports and will come with a certification decision by issuing a certification for the product. This is how it works. And what is the most important here is that it is not finished. The certification here is a third-party one again. It's a continuous certification. So every year we will have a monitoring. Every year we will have to visit and make an on-site inspection. Some testing will be still needs to be done because there is a planning, as I said, of testing, depending on how many products, families, subtypes, models, etc., that you have to test. So maybe there are also some testing to be done. And this continuous monitoring is definitely helping, supporting both sides, the manufacturer, because they are somehow under pressure to maintain a certain quality. They have also to maintain a quality by following their products, so they know exactly their supply chain upstream, the components, key components. They know when they are changing component. They need again to contact their certification body. Maybe testing will be needed, maybe not, but at least they are always on top and they know exactly what is their certified product made from, and what are their suppliers, and what are the testing done, and so on. And this is maintained year after year. This is very important. So the risk of any technical issues or misunderstanding or mistakes when building a device is reduced drastically. So this is an interesting point for the manufacturer. And the positive side for the consumer is, of course, that they have a quality product that is for sure maintained, and it's not one test and wonder and disappear as a manufacturer, but they know that when they buy a KEYMARK certified product, they know that there is a monitoring and a follow-up of the manufacturer, which is so a win-win from both the end user and the manufacturer. Yeah, I will. The database. Andre will speak about it in detail. Just to say that there is a database used by the manufacturer, the certification body, and there is a public access to some part of it that is interesting for the public and a consumer, an installer, or even a regulator. So this is something that will be covered today. That is the main topic of today, by the way. I just want to talk about recognition because we keep on talking about recognition, and I wanted to put some slides because just to say that we are not trying to avoid any comment, any discussion, any question about recognition. I have 2 slides about recognition. These are for sure. We know that if you have Heat Pump KEYMARK certification, you can de facto immediately, without any additional testing or additional paperwork, you can, through your certification body, register your product for the UK, so the MCS database. So this is something that is obvious, but again, it is important. You need to go through your certification body that will contact the Heat Pump KEYMARK Secretariat. It's me, and we can upload the specific format to populate the MCS database, and then your products are there listed for the UK market and ready to be referred to for any subsidies or any other plan. The second one is the quality label. So the quality label also, there is a lot of discussions, and you can't imagine all what we are discussing to keep aligned the quality label with the KEYMARK. These discussions are still ongoing, but this is clear that with your Heat Pump KEYMARK certificate and the test report, if there is any test report, you can have access to the quality label, and you need to contact, it's by country. So if you want to go to the Austrian market, you need to go to the quality label national commission in Austria and apply, and then and so on and so on. But you can definitely refer to a Heat Pump KEYMARK certificate. Again, although you heard maybe something different because of the alignment that we had with the quality label, but now we are back on track, hopefully, and we are clarifying some valid points made by the national commissions about the test reports, about the format, about a lot of but the concept is clearly confirmed by both parts, that they recognize the scheme, the way we are organizing the subtypes, the way we are testing, the way we are managing the Heat Pump KEYMARK scheme. So we have some points that needed clarification and discussions, and some are still discussed, but you should not have any problem transiting from KEYMARK to obtain the quality label. So yeah, for this, in the past, we had a nice map here of Europe, but this is very complicated to show a map, because from a country to another one, the situation is very, very different, not complex, but different. So you have different possibilities depending on which country you are. If the country is regulated, and they can refer to heat pump KEYMARK, like France. They are regulated. They refer to heat pump KEYMARK, so you can use your heat pump KEYMARK certification to follow the process and get into French market. This is an example. But there are some countries, let's take Italy or Spain, where there is no specific regulation. There is nothing that is mandatory or enforced within the country. So KEYMARK. So what we can say that it is not recognized. It's not that it is not recognized. It is not needed today. But if there is a scheme, there is an example in Czech Republic where they are working on subsidy schemes. They start to look at KEYMARK, because that may be a reference to their subsidy scheme. But if you go to, again, Italy and Spain, where maybe there is no specific plan to have a subsidy scheme, and there is no plan to enforce a regulation, or it is coming, we don't know, then the KEYMARK is obsolete. As simple as that. So having a country where there is no KEYMARK, it's not because it is rejected, no, because it's not needed today. That's it. But it can be used, as I said, for Czech Republic, then maybe in a month or so. That's what you need to take away for the recognition. So I think the next slides are about, yeah, the database. There is this is in the context of giving public access to information. So there is a dedicated website where you can find all the information, and André will touch part of this as well in his explanations. Then you have the access to the listings of the certified companies. I guess you are all familiar with this. And then you can click on the company, and then you can start to go more in deep to understand what is certified according to which standard, what are the technical parameters of the equipment, and what are the test results that are summarized. And I think now we have multilingual access to this database, and at least we are working on this. But I know that André and Danae did a very good job on giving access to the public, but also in other languages than English. And my last slide, when you see benefits, it means that it's my last slide. I think I repeated it several times. So third-party certification supports and facilitate and accelerate the purchasing decision, and because they give also the end user confidence that they have a quality product that they are installing at home. The quality mark is used as a reference for public subsidies when there is a public subsidies. Definitely the first reference is KEYMARK or quality label, but the link is obvious. And again, the transparency of the scheme. So we invite all the certificate holders, laboratories, inspectors, certification bodies to participate, and this is definitely a real invitation to support this certification scheme. Thank you for listening to me. Maybe you will have questions later, or yeah, okay, good.
Thank you, Tariq. Yes, indeed. So if you have any questions about what you just heard, feel free to add them to the chat, and we can take a look at them towards the end. Now it's time for André's presentation, but just before that, I have another question for you, another poll that my colleague Marta will open right now. We would like to know which category you belong to. Are you a certified manufacturer? Are you maybe not certified yet, but considering it for the future? Maybe you belong to a certification body or a test laboratory, or maybe you don't belong to any of those. We would like to know. I will check the answers. Okay, we have a lot of certification bodies and test laboratories, 33, 35%, 37%, and then a lot of certified manufacturers, which makes a lot of sense considering today's topic. Okay, great. Thank you for your input. We can now move on to André's part, which is the main part of the of today's webinar. So André is head of technology at BWP, so the German Heat Pump Association. And André, I will let you take over.
Thank you, and welcome from my side. I think I'm audible. So I will, we can move on to the next slide where I have written down the 7 steps to success as a manufacturer. That is, first off, to reach out to a certification body, that is CB for short, outside the database, and that you're interested in the Heat Pump KEYMARK scheme, and they will set up the KEYMARK Secretariat to create an account for your company in the database, or even multiple user accounts if needed or requested. Then you as a manufacturer and the certification body agree on the scope of certification and testing. That is, for example, space heating, space cooling. Tariq has shown before that there are different portions or aspects of an appliance to be certified. And this is something you can agree upon with the certification body. Then once you have your user account and you have been added to the database, you can create a subtype in the database at the certifiable performance data. Then you would send it over to the certification body, inform the certification body that you have just submitted and entered data to the database. The certification would verify the data you have submitted and publish the subtype to the public portion of the database that has been shown a few slides ago by Tariq. And now we will cover all of these steps in detail to see what is to be done within the database. So this is how to get the engine running as different groups. So as a manufacturer, you would reach out to an empowered certification body that you're interested in the scheme, as said before. And then the Heat Pump KEYMARK Secretariat will be notified about your interest in the scheme and add the manufacturer's company to the database, or you might also reach out to the Secretariat directly, but it is advised to go the route through the certification body. Then a user account will be created for you, and you will receive a request to reset your password, which is needed prior to your first login. As a certification body, you would need to send an application form to the KMO, as said before, as the organization supervising all KEYMARK schemes. And as a testing laboratory, you would establish contact to one of the certification bodies, or even more if you want to, and you should pay attention to the requirements that are laid out in Annex H of the KEYMARK scheme rules. That is it for this slide, and we can move on. So this is what you would see when you first want to log in into the database. On the left-hand side, you see your possibility to set your password for the first time or reset it if needed. Or once you've done this once, you can directly log in using your login info to get started. Next slide, please. After logging in, you would start off on the site or on the page certification holders, which is equivalent to the public area we've seen before. Then, as a manufacturer, you would move over to the manufacturer's page and click on New Subtype to create a new subtype. Below that, you see your previous subtypes, if you have any, along with their date of submission and their current status. Next slide, please. Once you've clicked on New Subtype, you would enter the basic information about your subtype. The applicant would be your company. If you're linked to multiple companies, you have a selection of more than one. If not, there's only one to be selected. Then you would need to select a certification body that would handle your application. So this is a point, this is in this demo equivalent to the applicant, but normally there would be another certification body than the applicant, obviously. And this might be changed later, but you shouldn't change it, but let it as you first set it up. Then you would need to add a title for your subtype, where the models would be subsumed. Then the driving energy, the refrigerant, the mass of refrigerant, which would be an equivalent throughout the subtype, and the type of heat pump that is to be used. You can only see two options here, but in reality, there are more than two options. There would be exhaust air to water or air to air as well, for example. Once you've set it all up, you can click on Create New and have an empty subtype to be enriched with models. Next slide, please. And this is how you would do this. Down below on the subtype page, which would be seen after creating the new subtype, there's a button called Add Model. And then, as you can see on the right-hand side, you can create a title that would also be used publicly and would be used to identify the model by anyone seeing your certificate. Then you have the internal ID. This is just for your purpose, for your internal management. And this is important because it's used for the identification of the model while importing and exporting data. Then you would select the application. There are four options. That is low temperature heat pump and medium temperature heat pump for heating only, then heating as well as domestic hot water, and low temperature heat pumps with domestic hot water. Then you would select the units, either indoor, outdoor, or both. Then the cooling applications, if needed, and the climate zone, as well as the climate zone for heating, which is a little bit more complicated as described on the left-hand side for heating only applications. So these are the options: heating low temperature and heating medium temperature. There's no difference between climate zone and climate zone for heating. But for any domestic hot water option, there's a difference, so that climate zone applies to domestic hot water, and for heating, applies to the heating part of your subtype. Next slide, please. After creation, all model data or data fields will be empty. You can see this on the right-hand side as NA not available. And these fields are dependent on what's been used before during the creation of the model. For medium temperature heat pumps heating only, there would be data for low temperature and medium temperature. For example, for the standards 15511 and 15825. If you have a low temperature heat pump, only low temperature data feeds would be added to this dynamic data sheet. And then to fill out the data and get rid of the NAs, you have two methods basically. That is the manual input and the data import. And we will both cover shortly. Next slide, please. So this is the manual input of data. As you can see, there is the data range, valid data range shown in the input fields, and as well as the unit next to it. And then there are the required fields highlighted in red. This should be true on each and every field in the database that is required. This is here the example for 15511 part 2 and for medium temperature heat pumps. So you could enter this data manually and click on save, and then there would be manual, there wouldn't be these NAs anymore, but the data you've just entered. Next slide, please. The other option is importing and exporting models. We will also see this in the demo after the break and in practice, but let's say you have two very similar models, and then you would create the first model in the database using manual input, and then you would like to reuse that data, but not typing it all in, but use the export and import function. With that, you would export the data as a CSV, make your changes as shown below, and then import it again into the subtype and have that second model added to the subtype. And this is where the internal ID comes into play. On the left-hand side, you can see in uppercase letters demo model 1, and on the right-hand side, you can see demo model 2. And this is how all this data is attributed to one of the two models. And if we had on the right-hand side also in upper letters demo model 1, we would just override all the information in the demo model 1 and not edit a new model. How this data works and what it means in detail that you can see in the CSV export is described in the import manual that can be seen on the manufacturer's page in the database. There you can see which temperature values are valid, which climate values are valid, and what are suitable data ranges, and how these data fields are described in terms of content. Next slide, please. Then, when adding data to the database, there is always a couple of consistency checks at work. Whenever data is changed in the database, this data is checked for consistency, and this is highlighted. In the example below, I've added or entered a heat output of 8.7 kilowatts and a electrical input of 2.5 kilowatts, and said that the COP, the ratio between the two, would be 7.1, and this cannot be true. So the database informs me that there is a inconsistency in the data, which is outside the admissible margin of 5% or 8%. This is also highlighted in the message box below, which would be seen above all the model data. And this reads inconsistent data detected for CFP according to heating under the low temperature regime. So I know exactly where to look for inconsistent data. And also it would show me what the admissible margin of data would be. And as long as there is inconsistent data in the subtype, it cannot be sent for approval to the certification body. Next slide, please. Then, once you've cleared out all inconsistencies, the button Send for Approval would be shown below. Once you click on Send for Approval, the subtype is considered submitted. It would show up on the certification body's side or in the list of their subtypes as shown below, along with the date of submission, and you would no longer be allowed to change any data in that subtype. And as long as this is the case, it's up to the certification body to handle the subtype. And then after a submission, you would inform the certification body outside the database that you've just submitted or sent over this subtype to them for them to handle and verify its performance data. Next slide, please. And this is what the certification body sees on their side. They have an overview that is similar and also detailed subtype view that is similar to the manufacturers with all the data in short. And they would change the subtype's status to either data entry, that is to send it back to the manufacturer. For example, there is data that might be consistent all along the subtype, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to submit it in the first place, but it might not be correspond to the test reports also sent over. And then they would change the subtype back to data entry. So you as a manufacturer would have the chance to change data again. Or if all the data is fine and corresponds with the test reports, you might, or the certification body would change its status to certified, and the subtype would be visible in the public area of the database. Next slide, please. Also, the certification body would change or add data to the subtype that's only known to him, that is especially the registration number, as well as a PDF of their certificate prior to publication, so that interested parties can search for the registration number on the one hand side, and on the other hand, they would able to download the PDF file for further use if needed. Also to cross-check the PDF they might have received on a way different from the database, for example, via email by another party using this KEYMARK certification, and to check if this is correspondent to the PDF file that is in the database. Next slide, please. And this should be everything from my side. And as I said before, we will go through all these steps after the break, and then we will see how this works in action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, André. Okay, time for a quick breath so we can all reload on energy, and then looking forward to the demo. See you in 10 minutes. So before André starts with his demo, yes, we have another poll. We would like to know what your energy level is out of 5. So it's Thursday. We've been in this webinar for an hour. How do you feel? Let us know. I see the average is 4.3, 4.2. Okay, that's pretty good. Pretty good for an hour webinar. All right, we can close the poll and we can start with the demo. André, I will give you the floor and I will stop sharing my screen so that you can take over. Voila.
Thank you. And thank you for staying with me a little longer. From the 7 steps of success, I've skipped a few right here. And this is, on the one hand side, the reaching out to the certification body and the login, because I've already logged in. And once you've logged in, you can see this page, which is the public database. And as seen before, we would switch over to manufacturers, which is our page here, and click on submit. On new subtype to create a new subtype. Then we would select the applicant and as well as the certification body, which is for the purpose of this demo, one and the same. We would name it accordingly. This then the driving energy, the type of refrigerant, the amount of refrigerant, and as said before, they were on the slide. A few options missing. In fact, most of those, and we will create an air-to-water heat pump or outdoor air-to-water heat pump subtype. Then, after creation, as you can see, this is the detail view or a single view for the subtype. You can see the applicant, this is your info, and the certification bodies and information. Right here, you see the subtype overview. A registration number is obviously missing. Then the general data. This can also be edited. You might have misclicked on the refrigerant and then you'd like to change it to something else. And then you would edit, change the details and save the subtype again. And then you would add the first model using this button. Then we would call it accordingly. This is demo model 1. And the same, this is, as I said, just for internal purposes. So you could identify it using your internal system as well as for importing, exporting models, or model data rather. And then we would click on the application that is medium temperature. Then there's only one unit. We would not like to certify any cooling data, but the data for a colder climate and warmer climate for heating in lower temperature application and lower temperature application. And this is not reversible. So then we would create the new model. And this is the detail view. You can see the general data on the subtype, on the model. This is basically all the information you've added before, and then it'd be broken down by the application. So this is heating, then you have the standard, and then the information, performance data, and related to that standard. Then this goes on and on. Then you have the average climate, also heating. This is then the sound sound data or sound power level according to eco design. Then this is 14.825 data all along the way, and then you'd see the next climate zone, because you click that you'd cover warmer climate and colder climate, and that is it. So, and at this point already, I'd like to break a little bit apart from the slides where it showed the inconsistencies later, and do it now by adding data here. So this is my heat output. This is my electrical input. We have a simple example here. And then as well, we have, let's say 10, but we say that the COP would be 6. So definitely wrong. We save the information, and this is the warning that you'd receive when adding data that is not correct or inconsistent with other data found in the model data. And this is also highlighted, and you will receive a message here that there is all data has been required. There are no NAs in this section, but there is a inconsistency. So in order to sort it out, I click on edit. I say this is 5 rather than 6, save, and now this is all good. I've now done this already and then entered the data. So we will not go through the pain of doing this all together, which is also a little bit time consuming doing it for the first time. And this is why I go to the bottom of this detail view on the model, click on back to get back to the subtype. And here I click on import model. Then I will select the file and click on import CSV. This has been all prepared before. Then this would go through. I get a message of success down here. Click on cancel. Go back to the subtype. And then I open up the demo model 1 again. And now there's data everywhere in the model. Normally, if you enter data for the first time, you'd likely need to enter all the data manually for the first time, but then you would export the data and upload it later for another model. And I will show that now. I've created another CSV file, which is basically the same. It just has a different name. For this, without adding a model first, I click on import. Then I will select another CSV file, conveniently named 2 in the end. Click on import. See the message of success down below. Click on cancel to get back to the subtype detail view. Then I will go down to the models, and now I have another model here which is differently named, and it also has all the data added to it. So there's also the possibility to generate these CSV files using an internal database within your own internal software, and then import this data directly into the database without any manual creation and enrichment of data in the database. So now that we've sorted it out, we can click on send for approval. Then we will be returned to the overview. It's called dashboard. And this is the one we've just added. Its status is submitted. And if I open it up, I can no longer change or add any model data, performance data to this subtype. So in order to get it certified, we would now call or inform the certification body using a different way. The certification body has this overview, the list of subtypes. They would see this is the subtype you just submitted. They would conveniently identify using this subtype. Open the subtype, go through the model data that has been submitted. They cannot change it. They can only view it. They would verify this data. Then they would add a registration number. This registration number is subject to the certification body's policy. So there's no overall scheme of registration numbers. Then they could also upload the PDF file as shown before. And if everything's good with this subtype, they would change the status down below to certified, or if not, I can do this for a second. They would change it to data entry again, click on submit. Now we go back to the manufacturer, and as you can see, there is a submitting date, but it's also data entry. And as you can see down here, you as a manufacturer are capable of changing data again. But we think we did it all right, so we will send it for approval again. Open the subtype, change the status from submitted to certified. We would enter for the demo of this purpose, a random data, click on submit. The data has been saved. Over here, we will take a look into the public database. And as you can see down here, right away, this data is public with our demo subtype to be seen by the world. But to not change anything that's important, we will quickly change it back to submitted to redact it or withdraw it from the database. That is it for the demo. These are all the steps that are needed to get your performance data listed with the public KEYMARK database. Heat Pump KEYMARK database.
Thank you, André. That was very thorough. Again, just as a reminder for everyone, if you have any questions, now is a good time to add them to the chat. I will also present again, so we get back to the presentation just for the final slides. Okay, so don't forget to, when asking your questions, don't forget to add the name of the person you would like to address them to. And while you do that, I would like to share some exclusive news with you because even though André's presentation was quite thorough and complete, we have also updated the database guidelines, which is basically a guide on how to use the database at best. And yeah, if you have any more questions or if you need it in the future, this could be quite useful. So we just updated it. You're the first ones to find out through this webinar, and you can find it in the documents on our Heat Pump KEYMARK website. So it's public. And I believe that you can already click on this link. If not, you will receive this presentation at the end of the webinar so that you can easily find it. Okay, now let's look at some of your questions. I see the first one was from David Capelli. Does the KEYMARK certification apply only for space heating needs, or is it also open to process heat pump, water to water or fluid to be used in industrial process at different temperatures? For example, high temperature heat pumps. André, you've raised your hand. Is it to reply to
Yes.
the question?
Yeah, there's no name along with the question, but I will answer it quickly. This is the KEYMARK scheme cannot cover industrial heat pumps because it's bound by the European standards, as Tariq has shown before, and these standards do not cover these or only specific temperatures. That is mainly 35 degrees Celsius as well as 55 degrees Celsius. And there are two more, but other than that, there are no temperatures in the standard, and it has an upper limit of 400 kilowatts. So it could not be used for industrial processes. Also, this European standard has a focus on space heating and space cooling only. So they need to be outside the Heat Pump KEYMARK scheme.
Okay, thank you, André. Then we have someone asking two questions. Will the certification or regulation be expanded for heat pumps that provide high water heat temperatures, higher than 75 degrees? And the second question is there a study on a certification roadmap or regulation map for systems without refrigerant and operating with air, reverse Brayton cycle? These are quite technical questions. I don't know if, André, you have an answer?
For the first one, the answer is no. As it currently stands, the upper limit in the typical standards is 65 degrees Celsius, and which is also rarely used only. And as to the certification roadmap, I don't think there is anything in the pipeline of a certification scheme or standards that would allow for such systems to be tested independently.
Okay, thank you again, André. Then Romain has a question. Hello, when the manufacturers declare the performances, heat output, EI input, COP, why does the system allow a margin 5 or 8%? The COP should be exactly equal to heat output divided by EI input.
I think I can answer that as well.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is, the basic reason is it's in the scheme roots, but also by eco-design, which allows for a margin of errors in the testing. And this is because the tests have or cannot be replicated by different testing institutes and reach 100% accuracy between them. And you might use different test reports for different portions of the performance data declared in the KEYMARK database. And hence, there might be a difference between the calculated CUP and the one that's might be come out of a test report. So it's basically a thing of the legal acts behind the KEYMARK scheme rules.
Okay. Moving on, and this is a question clearly addressed to you, André. Is there a recommended example or file format available for importing data?
There's currently only one format in two flavors, that is CSV. And I think that the best way to see how that works would be to download a CSV file from the public portion of the database, which this can all be seen, and use that along with the import manual to get a feeling on how to enrich or generate CSV files. Unfortunately, currently, we only have CSV files at our availability. And also the second question that goes right to that is the CSV specification. That is all in the import manual. And since there have been two questions, I can just share my screen and show what that looks like and how to see this.
Yes, we still have some time, so I think that's the easiest way. Thank you.
So after logging in, you see the manufacturer's page, and then you have the dashboard, the new subtype, and instructions. And when you click on instructions, you see the data description, which is a treasure chest to show how these CSV files work internally. This is one portion of it. And also there is this import manual where this is described in detail how these files work, with examples and also what you've seen before on the other page relating to the data fields that can be found in the database. This is also linked in the slides, by the way.
Okay, perfect. And we will share them. As I said, we will share them right after, so you will all have access to all the resources we've shared during this webinar. Thank you, André. I think this was all the questions for now, which leads me to the last part, and I will share my screen one last time, just to ask you to participate in a final poll. And this is, the question is, what topics would you like us to cover in our next webinar? So in the past, we have had manufacturers speak about their experience with the Heat Pump KEYMARK certification. We have asked certification bodies and test laboratories to also explain how they work and what their role is in detail. This time was a bit more specific. And thank you again to André for the presentation and the demo and answering all the questions. But if there is anything else, whether it's a broader topic or something specific again that you would like to learn more about, feel free to let us know. I will keep the poll open so that you can still add more input if you wish, if you need more time. But since I see no more questions in the chat, I think we can all take an anticipated break. It's always good news when we can take a break a bit earlier. But if you have any questions that arise later, any help or support that you need, you can, of course, send us an email, whether to Tariq, to André, or to myself. And you can also reach out to us and follow us on our social media. I see one last question that maybe we can answer, and it's how do you remove the phase-out date if you have chosen the wrong subtype? And is it possible to enter a date of your own instead of the system's default 24 months?
I think that is me again. As to the phase-out date, and it's changed, I can tell right now how to remove it. And the phase-out date is entered manually. If I understood correctly, this was the question at hand. So do you mean the period instead of the phase-out date? Is that what I understood? The phase-out date would be the same, I think.
So it's possible to enter a date manually?
It also always must be manually entered. But the phase-out period is fixed to 24 months.
Okay.
So from adding or from the phase-out date until being phased out, it's always 24 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think this is enough for today. Tariq, I don't know if you have any last words to close this.
Thank you. This is really, I think, great opportunities to understand better how we can certify the products, enter the data. Thank you very much, André. I learned a lot today, I can tell you. And I hope that it was really useful for you. Do not hesitate to contact us if you have topics that you would like to cover in the future, that we can do really focus on something specific. It can be an auditing process, it can be a testing setup, it can be a calculation that you need to understand better. So please do not hesitate. This is why we are here, is to support you in your certification journey. So thank you again for attending, and thank you again for André for the great presentation, and of course Danae. It was really, really good to follow this webinar. Thank you very much.
And thank you from my side as well. Thank you, André, as well. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And we'll see you in our next webinar. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you as well.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.